It's iRacing. Well, a band once said we're halfway there, but no one is living on a prayer. Championships are close between both classes, and it all comes down to that long straight. Can you see me at the bottom? I'm just waving. If you can't, you've missed out. This is round 6 of the IMSA Vintage series, and we are here at Le Mans once again with the chicanes. You'll see it here on the GSRC channel. So good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and good night to anybody. I am Craig King. Joining me in the booth is Joseph Black. And we've got Daniel Costello controlling the cameras today, and they've been provided by Dougie Beard. It is the home of the great 24-hour race, not the one that's happening right after this broadcast in the real world, but it's the one that everyone knows. And if you need a little catch-up of this legendary track, we head over to the GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Le Mans. When you talk about legendary circuits, this is a place that stands among the most famous in the world. Part permanent road course, part temporary street circuit, it traipses through the countryside just south of the city where it gets its namesake. Its size matches its reputation as well, clocking it at 8.5 miles, which equates to roughly 13.5 kilometers. However, when you take into account that it's split by only 33 turns, the frighteningly fast nature of this circuit becomes clear. Most of the corners have been added over the century of history it's experienced, but many have become renowned and respected. The 2 turns at the opposite ends of the massively long Mulsanne Straight play equally important roles. Tertre Rouge requires a great exit in order to not lose massive amounts of time, while Mulsanne Corner takes bravery and precision in order to brake as late as possible and keep opponents from passing you on the way in. There's also hair-raising moments like the tricky entry to Indianapolis, or the close walls along the bridge section in the Porsche curves. To win here, drivers will need a very low downforce setup, a good sense of strategy, and heaps of bravery. The 24 Hours of Le Mans is the crown jewel of endurance racing, which many drivers dream of someday winning and many fans flock to witness in person. Once you've driven the track here on iRacing, it's easy to see why.
Well, we saw there, Joseph, the GT1s, but we don't have those today. We've got 2 classics, but this track is all about that 1 straight and 2 chicanes.
Certainly is. The straight has been broken up now. You've got the 2 chicanes in the middle of it, 11 and 12, but you've got 33 corners around this iconic circuit, 13.62 kilometers or 8.46 miles, almost double the F1 maximum length that they can get. It is 103 years old, this circuit around Pays de la Loire in Le Mans, and of course, as we say, the 24-hour of Le Mans circuit. We are going to be doing an hour around here today, but still, we can pack all that drama into 1/24th of what we regularly get.
Yeah, 1/24th of it. That's going to be fantastic. And do watch out for overtaking opportunities around this track. They'll see the traffic a couple times, but that's the important bit. It's a couple times and anything can happen there in the race. So let's just go over the championship standings. Very interesting in both categories right now. The GTP, headlined by Jacob Reed, are 7 points ahead of Valenteus, and 9 points ahead of Gabriel Martinez, who won last week. Key thing here is Valenteus doesn't have any more drop weeks to spend, so it's all or nothing for the number 1 car out there today. David Ricciardi, what a season he's having. He'll be in 4th, just ahead of Christopher Lesdejak, and then right behind Brendan Lim, sort of in a bubble on his own there. Matthew Cockerham trying to hold off Seamus Power and Shadi Ahmad. Andre Felipe Diaz just there in the top 10, still close at the halfway stage. And the GTOs, well, when you look at the GTOs, Joseph, they're about the same.
Yeah, they certainly are at the top of the GTOs. Noel Lundberg with 111 points. It's 7 between the top 2 in GTPs. It's 6 between Lundberg and Van Hicks in the GTO standings. Cal Young 25 behind, and then everybody packed in together. Less than 10 points separates 4th Fabian Jungbluth down to 10th Josephine Becker. In the midst of that pack, Ilka Kotisalo, Mickey Friesen, Andreas Schuster, Martin Krejcirek and Brandon White. And with how close they are on points, I mean, it's representative. They're close on pace. It's always a tight race in the GTOs, and that's we'll be getting very similar today.
Yeah, very similar. We'll have a look at that in a moment. Let's look at the race stats, because welcome to round 6. It means it's a 60-minute endurance race for the cars, which means they will need to take a pit stop. It's an open setup, so make your own set. Use what the community provides. Great community there for the IMSA Vintage, but you crash, your day is done. You don't get a spare car. A lot of time to get your car fixed over an hour-long race. Drive-throughs will be at 17 incident points. Disqualification at 25, and I am saying this now to everybody. If you get a drive-through at Le Mans, there is something not right, because you can't get an off-track here at Le Mans. Stands for a few corners, so please be careful out there today. It's going to be very interesting, and the key thing we have to talk about as we just get ready to go into qualifying, Joseph, it's split. The race split today, and they like to have the algorithm splitting a little bit balanced. That means we have a staggering 28 GTPs and just 17 GTOs in the top split.
Yes, massive amount of GTPs here, which means that they're not going to be caught up. Not that they would have been for the most part, but they're not going to get caught up in that traffic that they regularly find themselves tripping over. And some drivers in the past, very recent past, in fact, have struggled to keep themselves in a straight line when they're trying to lap through. But as we get down to qualifying, we will go down to the circuit, and as you can see, we're regularly used to 1 minute something times. Jacob Reed currently has the quickest time of all. 3 minutes 23.872 is the start of the representative times in the GTP field. Having a look at all the drivers coming through now, they're just filtering in through in the 23s, 24s and 25s. That's about where the GTPs are going to be, and it's just about trying to extract that time. Only one in the 23 so far, Jacob Reed. Everybody else, though, hoping to follow.
Yeah, and the key thing here is you get 8 minutes around here to do a qualifying time. And Le Mans, you start just after the karting S's, or just on the run-up to the karting S's. Valenteus now 2/10 faster. 2/10 is actually quite a close time between classes, but it does mean that these GTPs get a second lap. The GTOs, as Mickey Friesen just finishes up, they get 1 lap. Because as you can see, Mickey Friesen's just thrown in a 3:57.581. Fastest time so far, but you get 1 shot in the GTO cars today. GTPs get another shot as we see the Worcester man, Jacob Reed, coming down to the long straight and braking hard for the second chicane. In French, it's the second rasenteur. I don't know my numbers in French. Un, deux, trois. That's all I've got. But as he comes on, tries to run as much of the line he can. A slowdown would cancel any sort of a run here, but he's all safe at the moment. As he comes over the hill, the very famous Mulsanne corner, which, of course, if you go straight on, you will be going to a roundabout. I've been on that roundabout. Very interesting to completely miss this corner and go around a roundabout, I must say.
Yeah, when you've got more of a perspective of Le Mans as a racing element more than an actual road element, then it is certainly interesting. I had the same experience at Monaco relatively recently, but of course Le Mans is a hell of a lot more iconic. They're both pretty iconic, but I get the feeling that straights like this are a lot more iconic. Courbe de Golf is where he's heading down now, and then to the Indianapolis S's to head into the final section of this lap. He's got about a minute to go. It is, of course, an incredibly long lap. He's got 1:40 left on the clock. Jacob Reed still holds second place. Andreas Valenteus still holds first, and Mickey Friesen holds first in the GTO class, still with that 57.5 being the best time that anybody has set so far. Cal Young just outside of the 57s in that second place, and Joran van Hicks, the title contender, you would argue, third place in the GTO field. There's our timings for you, and yeah, you can see the drivers, the splits, all the gaps between them. It's relatively close, all things considered. With the way that it is a 3-minute lap, we see gaps about 0.4 of a second in a split, in the top 10 of a split. And, well, today the gap is 1.4, but that's still pretty close considering it's supposed to be 3 times. That Jacob Reed will not be improving on his lap time. Instead, he's going to come into the pits, and Andreas Valenteus looks primed for pole position, but we still have pretty much everybody else in the class ready to set their next time. And this is Valenteus. He currently has that 23.6. Brendan Lim, the closest driver out on circuit, 0.4 back. But we're getting to the end of qualifying. We will see what they're able to throw in.
Gabriel Martinez just went faster, and then he got overtaken by David Ricciardi. So he was faster than David, then he was slower. Jack Wells just goes slower, faster, than Seamus Power. Timothy Reed now up into 4th place. 17 seconds left, Audrius. What have you got? The gold standard. You don't need to do this. You could just go for the glory run. More times coming in. Stephanie Majan. Where are you? Who are you? Out of nowhere into P3. Balateas with 3 seconds to go. This is going to be tight. It's not going to count. And that means we can run down. In fact, it did count. It was a 6.99, slower by 0.06 to his time, which is pole position. Because Audrius Balateas leads them away by 2/10 today. Big field. So let's go as quickly as we can with Jacob Reed into 2nd. Stephanie Majman, I apologize for the name there, 3rd place. What a surprise that is. Brendan Lim into 4th. Timothy Reed will be in 5th with Ferran Grau in 6th. Fernando Sarato will be 7th. Christoph Lezaczak 8th. Jack Wells will be 9th. And Seamus Power rounds out the top 10. I got 2 more pages. This is really weird for the GTPs. Fair play to everybody. Yuna Honma comes back into 11th. David Ricciardi just beats out Gabriel Martinez, 12th and 13th respectively. Tomoki Goroshi will be in 14th. Laus Olsen, you've got a broken arm. One-handed Laus today in 15th. Diego Mastretta in 16th with Riley Pogue, 17th. Matthew Cockerham will be in 18th. Then Guillermo Lewis, 19th. And Yuri Wickstrom rounds out page 2. And again, I got one more page. Sorry, we'll go off the script here a moment. This is quite a surprise for me. Gabriel Astelian will be in 21st. Sven Schuster, will be in 22nd after the time qualifiers, with Walter Giantupuzzi in 23rd, Eric Davison 24th, Matt Glan 25th, Gavin Ropchan will be 26th, Lance Simon will be 27th, Scott Lambert 28th. I'm shocked at this. You get it easier, Joseph. The GTOs are still close though.
Yeah, usually we have longer pages, three pages I think it was last week, but Mickey Friesen is going to lead a smaller GTO field than we usually have because, of course, the extension of the GTPs. Cal Young will be alongside him on the front row. Joran van Hicks and Josephine Becker will make up a row 2. Emilio Diciari and Turban Paulek will be the 3rd row, and then Roman Bello, Josh Brain, and then Ian Haycox and Martin Krejcirek will round out the top 10 and the top 8, all within the 4-minute lap times. Everybody else is going to be outside, and it will be Fabian Youngblood in 11th place alongside Elias Faccini, and then Pablo Rangel and Kevin Binkley to round out the time finishers. Noel Lundberg did not set a time, nor did Andrea Schuster or Ilka Cottesalo. So we've got 3 of the quickest drivers in the field, as they've proven so far this season, right at the very back.
Yeah, but if it's like the number 31 Acura at Daytona 24, pole position, gets disqualified and qualify, had to start the back. It's a long race, and that's not going to affect Lundberg here. Lundberg and Schuster will look to make a lot, and Cottesalo actually, all 3 of them, will look to work together to make a lot of time up through the field. That's what will happen out there. And the GTOs, real good situation here. 17 cars. Expect to basically just see at the top 10 in a train. That's what's going to happen today in the GTOs. You'll see a lot of train working, pack racing for the GTOs. They'll come into the pit. They have to take a pit stop. They can't fuel save anymore in those Audis, so they will have to come in. I'm really curious what's going to happen in the GTPs. Usual gentleman rules is single file through the Ford chicanes. So it'll be very interesting as the GTOs just come through the Porsche curves, and Virage Dupont will be up very shortly for the drivers. Stephanie Majan, that's going to be interesting up there in 3rd. Not a driver we see at all here for Le Mans, so that's going to be fantastic for the drivers. There's the bridge looking good, but you'll hear the sound of the tricolor flying over very shortly, and the pace car will start to roll in. The drivers will go into hopefully a single file formation here like they always do. And then it's going to be 1 hour, almost 18 laps for these GTPs around the Circuit de la Sarthe. This Nissan, it's a GTP variant, but this Nissan went to Le Mans once. We don't talk about it. It got upset and it got absolutely dominated. But it's a Hall of Fame car for a reason, and this is the Hall of Fame series for a reason. They go side by side through the Ford chicane, and green flag is let off as 28 screaming GTPs come down to the first corner. They will come around the corner to the Dunlop chicane. It's no longer the Dunlop chicane anymore. and it's the Michelin chicane, and in they go. Valenteus leads them off. Brendan Lim gets a good start getting past into P3. And also more moves happening as Grau gets past Timothy Reed. They're keeping it clean for the moment as the GTO come up to the chicane.
They certainly do, and that was a great start for Valenteus and Reed to build up that gap. Nicky Friesen and Cal Young haven't quite been able to build up the same gap to Joran van Hits. And you've got the 4 cars in the lead trying to hold it as Emilio De Chiari has not had the greatest of starts. He's dropped down a couple of positions, 6th place for our number 38 here today, and he might have been a fish out of water. He's going to try and hang it with this group of drivers. They'll head through and, well, continue on with their racing. But they are, of course, very tightly packed, as that looks like there might have been an issue for Pollock, and he's dropped a couple of positions, so a huge moment for the 33 in this race. Another driver who's out-qualified our expectations, and he tries to hold his own in it. We may well be getting 3 wide on this first lap. Pollock, Brain and Bello, and we'll see who's able to hold on to it as we head down towards the first of the 2 chicanes down the straight.
Yeah, in the picture-in-picture, you see Reed going past Valenteus, and Valenteus decides not worth my time as they come through to the second chicane. GTOs through the now-named Daytona chicane, as of course, remember the agreement with both. So you've got the Le Mans chicane now. Milo De Chiari looks like he's going slow. That's not good. It's a slowdown through the chicane. That's a rarity. I've done that myself. I'm not going to lie. I have done that myself, but a slowdown on the first lap is never helpful. You can see the 3 wide in the background. Cao Young takes the lead. Give him the space. He couldn't find his spacers out there to refix his pedals today, apparently. Jacob Reed, as you can see on the timing tower, losing a couple of spots. Gabriel Sellian also, now I can report at the back, has got a big spin out there through the Bolson corner, but Jacob Reed going side by side, just what you expect to see. Looking to go side by side, and this is the tactical game at the moment. It's going to take a few laps to actually come near any lap traffic, so just work with what you've got in front and just use the slipstream to your advantage to save the fuel. A shorter pit stop is a better pit stop.
It certainly is, of course, and well, we've got side-by-side action here nearer the mid-pack of the GTPs, although of course today this is for 11th place. This is for the top third of this field. It's going to take a bit of getting used to, is that adjustment, but this fighting is going to continue on. This is Fernando Serrato looking further back, though. Gabriel Martinez in that 11th place, trying to chase down Jack Wells for 10th. Junya Honma is going to be in behind them in 12th. So yeah, they'll keep fighting it out. They'll keep duking it out. They won't have had much of an opportunity to fight and to practice around every single one of the corners. Even if they put the same amount of practice in as they usually would, that would have been over the course of the entire circuit. With it being double the length of, for example, Spa-Francorchamps, they'll be a little bit more rusty on each of the corners, so it's going to take a bit of time to warm up to the racing. Stefan Maimon in this fight in 5th place at the moment is, well, let's just say far exceeding our expectations as well. There's been a few of those surprises today. He is yet another.
Yeah, Maimon, a real surprise. Not someone we see on the broadcast and come into this. And let's call it as it is. And this is not enough. This is not attack at Stephanie. You get your ring masters, those that love to drive any series that's on the green hell at the Nordschleife. You get your Bathurst drivers who love to do any race. You kind of get this for Le Mans. I know there's a Marmite here. It's a great track to watch racing. To race on it, it can be a little bit of a chore, as Valenteus starts to really crank it up, and that gap is almost a second on Brendan Lim. So that might be the effect we're seeing here. High downforce cars, fast speeds, and in fact, you look at it, pole position total is a 323, about the time you would see the hypercars doing it modern day. So that just gives you an indication of the speed we're seeing here out there. Let's look at a quick replay. This is Eric Davison coming through to our slowest corner on the track, and just missing the braking there, taking a driver out. The Canadian just ended in a quick sortie and going on by the silk cut there. I do know who that is, but it's just left my memory there. That's a tough corner to make any type of move there, or even just get caught up. Like I said, slowest corner on the track. I've been beside there to watch racing there, and I can tell you, they're that slow. If you take a photo, the wheels don't even look like they're moving.
Yeah, which is one of the unique things about a corner like that. Lustos at Spa-Francorchamps has the same thing. Gabri Martinez has had an issue. That is a big, big problem for Gabri Martinez, who is going to drop to nearer the back of this GTP field. And, well, the Playboy is going to have to do some playing right now. Let's have a look at a GSRC replay. What's happened to our number 9? Is it going to be just a bit of a, yeah, too much curbing for Gabri Martinez, too much pace taken into it, tried to save it, but then realised he would have been in the path of everybody else, and that would have been a worse drama than it would have been had he just moved out of the way and lost that time. That's in fact what he did in the battle for the lead of the GTOs. Right back to the live pictures, Josephine Becker into second place, and Mickey Friesen looks like he's struggling a little bit to get the race pace going, as Timothy Reed, the latest GTP to make a mistake. And well, we're seeing a couple of our regular faces starting to falter.
Yeah, losing the car, braking for Indianapolis with Brendan, and that's what caused the issue there. Always a tough corner. If you start sliding at that little kink before for Indianapolis, you'll lose the back of the car. Emilio's looking racy. Emilio's trying to find a way through. It's a little bit of a car park there. That's actually not a dual carriageway. That's the same piece of road. So some drivers driving on the wrong side of the road, some drivers driving on the right side of the road. I'm British. I'm going to say that, but he loses some time out there as Andreas Schuster makes his way up. And here's the interesting thing. Andreas Schuster, Nico Costasalo, Noel Lundberg, all started at the back. Schuster's made up the most spots so far. He's in 6th. You can see Costasalo 10, Lundberg's in 12th. Key thing though, Josephine Becker in the lead. This is the sort of race that benefits her as we keep looking. Emilio, I know it's hot, I know it's warm at the moment. You bring some of that heat up to the northern hemisphere, by the way, as we're all suffering. But that's interesting though, as Emilio keeps on going. Josephine in the lead, and it's the sort of track that suits her because it's a draft track. She makes her time out on the formulas, on the Skip Barbers, the Formula Fords. You know, cars that give you the ability to do drafting. So just having the lead here at the moment, she's comfortable leading this pack. If she loses the lead, she's not worried. What she wants to do is make sure she keeps safe. And it's crazy to think she's just the number 25 car. Still puts her as quite a high iRacing in the GTO field, but overall, she's middle of the pack today when it comes to iRacing.
Yeah, she certainly is, and it can create an interesting one. She's almost smack dab in the middle of this pack. Of course, we've got 45 cars out there, and she just about falls into the bottom half, which is interesting. And, well, the 25, that she would do very well to win this race at the moment, in a good position to do so, as we've ticked over almost our first 10 minutes. Christophe Olejniczak, his... well, he set his qualifying lap early, very early, and didn't end up doing a second one. So it was interesting to see the 10 not really taking part in any of the qualifying session at the moment. He's right in the thick of things in a fight for third place. Stefan Maiman leads it. Ferran Grau is in second place. And then Christophe Olejniczak, Fernando Serrato, Brendan Lim and Seamus Power are all within 5/10 of the car in front. So that is going to be a fight that if one mistake is made by any of those drivers, it really, really spices things up. We do have at the moment, they're just trying to make their way through on one, I believe, GTO that finds itself in the middle of this field, and just getting very, very close as they all take different braking points. Of course, they have to measure what the drivers ahead are doing, and they've only had a couple of laps to be able to do so. They've only had a couple of laps to see what everybody else's braking points are, and if they make one mistake, that can throw off this entire group of drivers.
I just saw Gabri Martinez just send it up the inside for a 3-wide overtake into Mulsanne, and there's the Jack trying to hold off trying to make a move onto Ferran Grau. He doesn't. Interesting you mentioned about braking and different braking points. We've had an incident out there with Laus Olsen towed the car coming to the Daytona chicane, the first chicane, got into the back of Diego Mastretta. He did get on the radio. I think he apologized. I think it was a combination of just different braking zones and also using the engine braking, shifting down. Remember, talked about Laus. He's got one arm at the moment. He's still recovering from a broken arm. And I just wonder if that was the mistake. He'll probably come and tell me, but I wonder if that was also a factor there, unable to get the car shifted down into gear. Cal Young retakes the lead in the GTOs over Josephine Becker, Noah Lundberg also now going up the field, but it's so tight up in the GTOs, and you look at it, the top three all taking times in the GTPs, the leaders there. You've got the GTOs as well split ahead. The GTPs, you might just wonder if you see the timing tower, everything's just gone a little bit crazy. A lot of drivers just getting off tracks at the karting S's, which is never a good thing. So keep an eye on that later. Mickey Friesen leading this pack at the moment, trying to catch up. Well, he's at the back of this pack, sorry. I thought he was trying to catch up to them. Got 3.5 seconds to the rest of them behind them, which is Andreas Schuster. And he's happy here, and he's in his happy spot. Even with the Bane microphone, he's happy enough to just stay at the back here and wait for his chances later in the race, because, yeah, there's only 11 minutes gone in the race here.
Yeah, only 11 minutes gone. It's not exactly flying past for us or for the drivers. It's just such a big challenge for them, and that's exactly what they're contending with right now. Le Mans is always going to be a challenging circuit to be racing around, especially when you have to fit all of your racing right into this, as Riley Pogue looks like he's got a problem. He's gone very slowly out of the corner, and so the 20 is potentially going to drop down to 20th. If he keeps going that slowly. Not sure what's happened to him, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity to see a little bit on the grass on the entry, and yeah, just taking too much speed again. That's been the way that it has been for a number of the drivers, where they've just taken too much speed into the corner, and they've learnt to regret it, but they have lived to tell the tale.
Yeah, unfortunately for Riley, not lived to tell the tale, and has had to take a toe out there. That's so unfortunate for him. Just taking that too much speed, and we've all done it ourselves. Stephanie looking to make moves up there. Well, there's the Jack in front, and they're starting to lose time to Ferrand-Grau, now using this slipstream. And it's interesting because the IMSA Vintage community, when they come to Le Mans, they'll do a no chicane. The next time they go to Le Mans, they do a chicane, and then they'll alternate. And the strategy between a no chicane and a chicane is really interesting, because with a no chicane, you can't make these moves on these straights because of the fact you're so trimmed out here with the wing. You've got no wing basically, and the moment you pull out the slipstream, you hit a brick wall and you lose all that speed. So they have to be a little bit coordinating when it comes to moves out here, like Jack Wells trying to do right now as he let Ricciardi go on by, as they're trying to also work their way up. So they're looking to work their way up through the field and to try and catch up here. It's the ultimate, absolute ultimate peloton style racing out here. But now you then see that Valenteus technically is a breakaway in the lead to Jacob Reed. Jacob's just there, he's just trying to catch up. But very interesting, you see basically everybody in the GTOs are pack racing. To few pack races in the GTPs. The leaders are out on their own, and Lesser Jack continues to basically just hold on as the favorite part of my racing career and iRacing comes in. The Porsche curves with dirty air. Enjoy, Christoph.
Yes, it's great to watch. It's great to fight in the midst of it, but it's even more great to be in the lead of a fight for it. That second place in it is not quite so. It's not quite so fun, because you're fighting the car. You're trying to stay within range. It's very, very difficult to manage. They will come out to the start, finish straight, and Leschensack will be chasing down ahead. And I feel as though this is sort of a race where the battles have swapped. Normally, it's a fight in the GTOs that keeps very, very close all race long. Instead, it's a fight for the GTPs. And it looks as though, well, to be fair, both classes doing very similar things. But it looks as though these two have the measure over the GTP field, not just in iRacing, not just in the championship, but today at Le Mans. They are demonstrating exactly why they are both consistently at the top of the field. Valenteus leads Jacob Reed by 0.7 of a second. They've been basically matching each other on lap times every single lap, and they have been at least at 0.4 faster than the car behind every single lap. That's been the way that it's been, especially when they've fought as well, when they've tried to go for overtakes further down, as we may well be seeing right here. They gain even more time on them. They won't make a move into this chicane, but out of it. Are they going to be getting a better exit? No, they won't. Noel Lundberg then, he's fought his way all the way through this field, He's, of course, got less cars to pick off than he regularly would, but he still had to work hard to do so. Not many problems in the GTO field so far today, and he's gained up to 6th place. As Andreas Schuster doing the same thing. He's gotten past Pullett. He's in 7th.
Yeah, not a lot happening in the GTO field. Emilio Dicciari getting spun around. He didn't have the speed that Iker Costastalo had, and Iker did not realise he tried to pull out the way as quickly as he could, but unfortunately caught the rear end of Emilio's car, and Emilio went around. He's got a lot of damage. He's going to nurse that car now. He's at the back of the field and 50 seconds behind the leaders, and he's lost a decent chunk of time out there. And now it's Iker Costastalo leading Lundberg and Schuster, and now these three realise 3.5 seconds away from Josephine that they need to start working together. And realistically, if I'm these guys, I'd be saying, okay, Noel, you've won a race around here. This is the track that you excel at because it's a draft track. Maybe you should go ahead, but I feel that, I say that, he just got a bit too hard into the first 4 chicane. We keep watching these drivers, and this is interesting because we know how good these cut drivers are. Jacob Reed retakes the lead. Now, if you were here earlier today, you would have seen the Lotus 49s at Twin Ring Motegi Oval. Yes, it was the Oval race today. These two had a great battle with Mick Claridge. And Mick, one day we'll get you in one of these cars. You can try and battle these guys in another field. But Reed was the man who was victor. And say it quietly, the Triple Crown is somewhat on. But we'll see what happens. This is Andreas Schuster. Does he go a bit too hot in the picture as well? Yeah, he goes way too hot. In fact, he loses the car. And that just goes to show the drivers are really trying to push. And the idea with the first part of the 4 chicane is you try to carry as much speed as you can, get on the brakes. The moment you see a car fishtailing at the rear end, they're taking too much speed. And that's unfortunately Schuster taking a lot of damage. He's managed to hold on. So that's one good thing to see. Valenteus, he's just going to be happily to place it here because look at the gap now between these two and Alezajak. In fact, Reed just did a 24.9. That's over a second faster than what Alezajak has done so far in the race. And you're not missing anything in the GTOs because they've just decided to lock horns at the moment, or lock bumpers with Valenteus. He really wants to deny Jacob Reed a shot. Triple Crown.
He certainly does. He wants to get through as soon as he can on Jacob Reed. And this is the opportunity that they've both been waiting for, to really scrap it out on the circuit without any outside influence, because regularly what they'll have to do is they'll have 1 or 2 other cars that are specialists at that circuit who try to give them a decent go. Not today. Today, they are the 2 quickest drivers around Le Mans so far, at the very least. And that's exactly what we're seeing at the moment with the gap they've built out. So it's all about straight and flat fighting for those 2. This is the lead in the GTOs, though, and it may well come to an interesting fight, because there goes through a GTP. Now, this might be a demonstration of some of the GTPs that are about to come up on this pack, or it may well just be a stray GTP out of the way of everybody else. But GTPs are going to play a huge factor in the fight of the GTOs at the moment. Whilst they might not come through and lap as much as they will often do, it's going to be an interesting debate to watch them navigate through this one. When they do eventually have that, it'll be in the later stages of the race where they care more about the position that they're in, because in the early stages you're just happy to settle down into a rhythm like they're doing just now. When they get to the later stages in the race, when the cars start trying to lap them through, then they can really start to have some issues.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really vital, because there had been moments earlier this week in the hot splits where this is why I'm quite. I was having a bit of a joke when I went through the grid. Yeah, 28 GTPs is a shock when the field splits. Usually you get more GTOs to GTPs. The ratio is usually stacked to the Audis. So you come to the GTPs and you think, right, this is going to be a hindrance in the endurance round, because they have to go through more cars. This time it's more GTPs on GTOs. Now, multi-class traffic gives and takes. We have that joke, giveth and taketh. This affects the GTOs, and during the week, overtakes have been happening around here for the GTOs. The GTPs have been coming around some of the field around this part of the track, and I'm looking at my track map, and as the leaders come out through the karting S's, you've got Valenteus and Reed just coming up to what looks to be the Porsche curve. So give it a lap, well, actually, give it next lap because the delta between the two classes is 30 seconds. You're going to see this traffic, and this is helpful for the front of the field. When you look at the delta, you look at the timing tower, the GSRC timing tower in the red is the GTPs. You can see the gaps, and you get an understanding of, okay, the lead GTPs are going to be hitting the lead GTOs around the Mulsanne, between the first and second chicane. In fact, here's the Leslie having a little battle now with Stephanie Mayan. Just to go by, and of course, Claire and Grau, Fernando Sarato, Power, Brendan Lim, they're all here. They're probably going to be hitting these cars maybe after Mulsanne corner. So timing's going to be crucial this first time through the traffic. The quicker and safer you get a place to overtake these GTOs, the better it's going to be in the long run for the race.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, well, we will see them navigate that later on, of course, in this race. We are about 20 minutes through. We've still got 2/3 of the race still to go, and it feels as though 2/3 of the action is still yet to come. Of course, they've got to do a lot of fuel saving around here, especially with the extra couple of corners that they wouldn't necessarily regularly have to contend with those two chicanes that are heavy braking zones, and then really heavy on the throttle once again as they come out of it. So there's a bit of extra fuel saving to do, and some may have prepared for the chicaneless element of things and put just enough fuel in their car to be able to deal with that and manage that to the end of the race, but they would have been sorely mistaken, as well, Valenteus remains behind Jacob Reed for the time being. They've almost eked out that gap to third place Stefan Maiman to 10 seconds, although now it's third place Christoph Olesniczak as they start fighting for that third position. Maiman has held on to it for the time being, so it just looks like an audacious overtake, an audacious send from the 10 that didn't pay off.
Yeah, it looked like Olesniczak did try to make things through, but now we come to the traffic, and they're hitting the first pack, the leaders. And in the first packet, Andreas has to put in Haycock between him and Jacob. He's not going to lose a lot of time to that, but where do you go? Have to just let off the throttle a little bit before he can come out on the exit there of the second chicane. Cost him a few tenths, but that's not going to hinder him. He's still in the slipstream, as now Jacob will look to just catch up to Corbin Pollock, Josh Brain, Roman Bello. And now the interesting time is he'll get past Brain and Bello. Valenteus will get past as well. Can Jacob catch up to Forbin? Now this is where the interesting factor comes, because we talked about it. We could be seeing these drivers go into a situation where they have to go round through the Porsche curves and the karting S's to try and get by. You see Reed having a little bit of a moment through the traffic. It's going to have to go, but this is big. Corbin Pollock is going to be a little bit of a bookmark here. Valenteus had to do a wiggle to get onto the brake, and that's a very brave move. You don't normally see that when you come to sim racing, to try and make a move around the outside of Indianapolis on the traffic, but safety where it is. Loses a little bit of slipstream to Jacob. Big time moment here though, because there is Jacob, 2 cars ahead. Valenteus is not going to get by. First round advantage through the traffic, hopefully, or maybe, belongs to Jacob Reed.
So certainly it does look to be the case. Now the gap between the two, 1.3 seconds. It was down to about 0.2 of a second, and now Valenteus tries to get through. It's up to 1.8 seconds between the Briton and the Ukrainian driver. That is a huge deficit to have, as it looks like something may have happened to Stefan Maiman as he's dropped 2 positions, as Jacob Reed is through on a couple of GTPs, trying to get through on the rest of the GTP pack right now, and it looks like he's being a little bit bullish about it, which is absolutely fine, and that is because he is going to dive into what appears to be, there we go, it is the pit lane. That's going to be interesting, and well, he's not the only driver to do so.
Yeah, not the only driver to do so, but that's because Brendan Lim and David Ricciardi just had a crash at the Porsche curves, and unfortunately have both had to take a tow. Stephanie had a little bit of a moment battling with Olesniczak and Farron Grau. We're trying to have some very tense battles through the Porsche curve. They even almost hit a GTO going through Porsche curves, and almost one going through into Village de Pont, which is the bridge, which is the left-hander, just after the Porsche curves. So Stephanie will come on by. Stephanie's got some time to work. Valenteus is there, as we said. Matthew Cockerington. This is smart from Valenteus. Got held up by the traffic, decided it's not worth it. Stephanie, with that Australian internet, we can't help that. They can't help that either. It's just the nature of the long distance out there, but he takes that P2. But this is the replay I was just talking about. This is Brendan Lynn. Now, Brendan's going to try and make, or just not try and make a move, trying to defend against Seamus Power. Goes into the braking, catches just the tail of a car there. Seamus has got nowhere to go and goes into him, and then bang! Sorry to make the director wince there with the audio, but that's a big hit. David probably had no way to go. And very interesting and hard. An interesting moment's just happened in the race. Van Hicks has been spun around. Van Hicks just holds it. Stephanie's got to slow down. All of a sudden, the chaos has begun. Cam Porter, get your lines ready. Van Hicks has had to serve a slowdown.
Chaos and drama in Le Mans, of course, as we expect. As soon as they hit the GTP to GTO crossover, it is drama it's all throughout what you can see. But yeah, I mean, that was exactly the incident that they were trying to avoid earlier. The driver that span around and tried to get out of the way before sorting anything out. That's exactly what they were trying to avoid, and that is exactly what we saw as the drivers filter their way through. Josh Brain getting squeezed, getting a right old squeeze from Turban Pallet. Didn't need to do that, but I just think he was caught unawares. I don't think he realised quite how much quicker the GTPs are. Yes, the split is only 30 seconds between the two cars, but that is over an incredibly. It's not that much longer of a lap than they would be expecting. Of course, it does feel like an incredibly long time, but it's only 30 seconds in a 3-minute 30 laps. So it's just one of those where they don't quite expect quite how quick they're going to be. And Fernando Serrato looks like he's got an incredible exit off of the corner, and he gets through on fair and growl for that third place. Of course, don't forget though that we've had one driver from the higher up in the pits, so this is essentially the fight for fourth, and a legend stack in that second place, in that net third, is just up the road.
Just saw that picture in pitch what happened to Valenteas there. Well, Van Hicks, sorry. They begin with a V, I apologise. As Van Hicks just had to do a little bit of avoidance there, as Serrato probably not expecting himself to be in this situation. And I do wonder, does this mean with Valenteas doing that pit stop, could be the time for drivers to pit? Interesting, I've been talking to Mick Claridge just in the background. We were talking about, did Audrius make a mistake with his pits? We'll wait and see. Pit time looks normal for him, but he did spin up a little bit. So interesting. I can report Jacob Reed is, well, you could probably see, he's still gone around for another lap. I do wonder if anybody else is going to dive into the pits. They do not. So Valenteas will have to go a long way on those tyres. Not the fuel, the tyres. Because if you get a full pit stop around here, you can basically get a free set of tyres out there. So that's going to be one to watch. And of course, I did want to point out, you saw that issue with Van Hicks. At the same time, Josephine had a slowdown into the second chicane. Unfortunately, they've lost the tow massively to Cal Young. And Cal is just living on his own, like Jacob's doing at the moment, living on his own in the race. And that's a lonely road to be. It's one thing to be leading a race, but sometimes at Le Mans, you kind of want some help. You kind of want some companionship, otherwise you don't get it. I can report Stefan has just had a slide there as well, but he still kept on going. But yeah, when you're on your own like this in your cow, it's a lonely world here, Joseph. You've got nobody but yourself to talk to.
You certainly do, and that can have benefits and it can have negatives. On the one hand, you don't feel the pressure of the driver trying to attack you behind or trying to defend from you in front. However, it does mean two things. One, that you are going to be running your own race, so you decide your pace, and if it's not quite up to snuff with the rest of the field, then you can really start to struggle towards the end, because when you're going for what appears to be, that's going to be a driver off in the foreground. Who is that? That looks like Roman Bello. Indeed, it is the 23 who just makes a pure mistake and goes around, just gives the wall a little bump. Not a dramatic piece of contact, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is a bit of damage. But yeah, I think it's that you either are going to run your own race, go too slowly, go too quickly, and end up not being in the correct position after your management, as Serrato now threw on a legend stack for that P2. And then also, you have the thing of no slipstream, as it looks like that's a very poor exit from a legend stack who drops down a position, and Myman drops down past Power. So nobody wants me to get to the end of this point, and there's overtakes left, right, and centre as they head out of the exit of the straight and onto the Côte du Golf.
Yeah, Myman's on the radio. I think they're trying to just do some workings here. And it was a light tap on the rear there from Myman that sent Bello going around. But unfortunately, Roman wasn't very happy there. Just a small moment as we just head on. And oh man, this is very tight. Schuster looking to make a move. I tell you what, we got to go. Myman and Powers just had a big wreck coming down at Indianapolis, and they were hard fighting. Very hard fighting there. I don't think the radio call was talking about something. I think there was something else going. Because I got to be brutally honest, neither driver was giving any of them a space out there as they were coming down the Gulf Strait onto Indianapolis. And Seamus, I don't think you're going to get anywhere with a broken wing like that, my friend. I'm surprised you didn't go into the shallow realm there. That's a big-time incident as Josephine Becker come back to this, using all her skills out there to really just be happy, being patient as Valenteus comes by them a second time. A second time, yeah, he's going to do it one more time. Here's the replay, though, because this is just, watch them, they're bumping, and I've got to say, why? Again, we like being partial, but I'm going to call it. Why are you bumping someone so close to the inside there when you come to Indianapolis, when you know there's bumps there that's going to cause issues? Seamus had no other line to take but the bump in the high side going into Indianapolis.
Yeah, a difficult one there. And that is going to be the end of our high-flying, I would argue, underdog, Stefan Myman, who's out of this race now, and is going to become the latest of the GTPs to be out of this race. We have Brendan Lim, Davide Ricciardi, and Riley Pogan. He's going to join them, as is Gabriel Asselien, although I think he was just in the pit lane. He has now come out of the other end of it. But yeah, that's going to be a few of the drivers dropped from the GTP field. Not too bad, all things considering, because they are a massive field here today. Josephine Becker in that third place in the GTOs, doing very well, punching potentially above her weight, but she was leading at one point. So it's going to feel a little bit disappointing as through goes Elation on Ferren Grau. Third place is going to be his. But Josephine, of course, in a great position to be able to gain it back just behind Noel Lundberg. And that's the way it is. I think it's just about trying to keep up a learning experience for herself as they run with the top of the top. And you just get a sense, you just get an idea of the lines that you're supposed to take, and the braking that you can take. You go, oh, I can brake a little bit later into here, etc., etc. It's a really good learning experience for a driver that is potentially a little bit less experienced.
A little bit less experience, but got a lot of real-world pedigree out there, so she has got a little bit of racecraft under her belt, so no surprise there. Leatherchap's got a lot of experience under his belt, but Fernando Serrato just getting a better run ahead, but the below 7 count behind him is Ferren Grau, and it's interesting to see the positions gained in the class at the moment. Reed's up 1, Serrato's up 5, Leatherchap 5, Grau 2, Wells 4, Yunahonma 5, Goroshi, in 6, Walter up 13, Glavin Rocham's up 14. So very interesting, but of course they all have to take pit stops in. Cockerham, Mastretta, Power. Well, Power's taken a pit stop because he had to get some repairs. Mark Simon's into the pits, and Stefan Schuster, Eric Davison, all in the pits getting their fuel stops and getting repairs out there. In fact, I think Seamus has his wing back, so that's a very quick repair as well. Able to do that with just a loss of 30 seconds, and then the crash was really good. But Jacob Reed yet to pit, continuing to put fast times, and interestingly, no help. 3:24.390 last time by Fernando Serrato. With a little bit of help with a 3:24.485. This time by could be interesting for time. Also looking at the track map, when does Jacob make the move to pit? 26 minutes to go. Give it another 5-10 minutes, I feel. Same with the Audis. Give it another 10 minutes to the Audis before the top drivers come into the pit. But Friesen, Cotasalo, Brain already into the pit. A very lovely crane, helicopter, drone shots. One or the other. It's not a helicopter. It's too low for a helicopter. You get the idea. Crane shot for Jacob Reed. Comes on through. Is he going to set another fast lap out there? Yeah, he does indeed. But it's not as fast. But it's a 24.6.
Yeah, 24.6 is going to be the lap time set. And it's not quite, of course, as you say, not quite as quick as it potentially could be. It's not quite as quick as fastest as we are watching on, with the drivers slightly more in the mid-pack of this one. Yunya Honma is going to lead Timothy Reed and Tomoki Goroshi. Never mind, he's not going to lead the driver of Timothy Reed, who goes for a little bit of a half spin. And looks like, actually, has he decided to come into the pits very late there? Indeed he has, so that was an intentional decision from Timothy Reed to dive in there. That was a very, very last minute call, it looked like. But yeah, he dives in, and we're going to get a replay here of exactly what happened with this one, with the Legend Stack in that 5th place at the moment. Huge bit of curbing, very well avoided from the driver in behind, and a Legend Stack really would have been terrified in that moment.
Yeah, I wonder if we can get that Timothy Reed incident up for a moment, because that's definitely going to be an unsafe entry for Timothy Reed. That kind of looked like a Gianni Vecchio move. If you've ever seen the 24-hour race around here by the top drivers back when it was a special event, you kind of understand where I'm coming from there. He'll take more time into the box. Yuri Wickstrom as well, Gavin Wopchan into the box as well. Cal Young now continues on, doesn't want to take a pit stop in. Do you blame him at the moment? He wants all the space he can get. I'm glad he found it. I was mentioning it earlier just in the quick bit. He decided to reconfigure his pedals, redo them before a race. A little bit of maintenance, as you say, as Lundberg and Becker come into the pit. Did some maintenance. He's got a carpet. All the spacers, as he undid his pedals, he got lost. Spacers on a carpet, never a good thing. So instead of getting the needed practice that he had to do, Cal was too busy trying to find spacers to get his pedals going. Very interesting. I think we got the replay just loud enough here. Timothy, just 1 second. Car goes sideways. He's got all the runoff there. And if he goes left, he has to take a slowdown. If he goes right into the pits, he's got to serve a penalty. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, as they say. Apologies for the language there, as Reed, unfortunately, has to go the long way.
Yeah, it's into the pit lane then for Reed, a forced pit stop. Or, well, an unforced error, a forced pit stop, you can call it what you like. But indeed, he decided to end up going in to the pit lane. As we were watching Tobin Palek and Andreas Schuster, we're now watching Noel Lundberg and Mickey Friesen, as Friesen tries to get through and does so with relative ease out of the pit lane to the 8 through on the 4. Can Lundberg find anything, any way of fighting right in back? Of course, Lundberg's got more points than Friesen, but the pace is relatively similar between these two drivers. And so this is set up to be a pretty good battle. Josephine Becker watching in the background, hoping to latch onto any mistakes as well. This is going to be a really good one to watch, so keep your eyes on the 8 and the 4.
Yeah, it was interesting is Josephine actually had the slowest pit stop out the 3. Well, Friesen was earlier on. It was a 53.7 cone to cone. Noel was a 51.1. Josephine was a 52.0. She's losing the slipstream right now, and she knows that they're not going to be able to be fighting. Key thing, you see the word pit on the leader. Jacob Reed's into the pit, so we'll keep our eyes on that. Fernando Sorato is in, and I think we're going to have a bit of a grim patron at the moment. Yeah, everybody gets on in here as Ferran's now into the pits. I'm just keeping an eye. Did he actually speed into the pit lane? Very hard onto the brakes. He made it. I'm just keeping my eyes on that. Jack Wells decided, I don't want to be like you guys. I want to keep on going. Tomoki Koroshi will go ahead as well. Look to go in. Homer comes in. Gabri Martinez comes in. So everyone is now into the pits, which means one question. Did Valenteus' early pit stop, remember, he had to go through the traffic a second time. Is that going to help or to hinder? Jacob will have the first box the second box, sorry, in the pit lane. So once he goes, he will be able to just pull back out. It's an identical time between him and Valenteus. Well, I think the traffic, there's your answer. Because there is Valenteus, there is Jacob Reed. That is a staggering 6.5 seconds. I think the early pit stop did not work there for Valenteus.
No, certainly did not for Audrius. He tried to go for the undercut and instead found himself with a gap to Jacob Reed of 6.4 seconds. As well, that is very costly for the Ukrainian driver, as he tried to get ahead on strategy on Reed and in the end did not pay off in any way, shape or form. That does mean that Jacob Reed is going to be in a better position, not just on track but also with everything going his way. Take for example the tyre difference. He will have, or at least the fuel difference, he will have a better indication of himself at the end of the race, a better indication of what he is supposed to be doing at the end of this race, whereas with Audrius coming in a bit earlier, you never quite know, and the later you come in, the more you minimise risk that something unexpected will happen, because of course 20 minutes is less time than 30 minutes. That's pretty obvious, and that is going to be what he's going to be hoping for as he tries to catch up to the back of Walter Jacopuzzi, who currently sits on that podium. 1.5 is the gap, and that's the car in the foreground just a moment ago.
Yeah, shouldn't really be fighting Jacob Reed, but technically, you know, just remember that Jacob is a little bit faster. Lambert having a little bit of a battle as they go side by side with Yuna Honma, and Yuna is going to get ahead there. So Honma keeps on going. Really nice to see. Just a shout out here to the Japanese drivers. We've got at least one. I think we had two of them as well at one stage, and it's two of them. Sorry, it's really nice to see, because we talk about the Toga Hisada effect. We got a lot of Japanese drivers on the sim, but remember, it's the morning. It's the late night for some of these drivers. So it's one thing to be racing. I mean, I wouldn't be racing at this time unless I was doing a night stint for an endurance race, which I did last week. So I understand what they're going through at the moment, but really nice just to see Japanese drivers just really I wouldn't say burning the midnight oil, because sometimes I don't, you know, you need your sleep, you need your health. It's a good thing, but just nice to see someone going by. But Josephine, give a shout out to Josephine for a moment. After all that, I was worried that she was not getting onto the back of Mickey and Noel. She's got back up there. Real good work for her. Fantastic. And she's back in prime position.
Certainly is, and will be continuing this fight onwards as Jacob Reed through on Jacopuzzi with no real issue for himself, and back onto the podium positions. As you can see, GTP's coming through, and our overall race leader Jack Wells has just dived in. We'll see where he comes out, but of course that does mean, as well as Tomoki Gurushi coming into the pit lane, that does mean that we'll at least have our leader in correct position again. Jacob Reed will continue it on. Audris Valenteus not been as quick as Reed, and not being able to make the gains as a result. The gap between them 5.6 seconds, and actually it does appear to be coming down by quite a significant distance between himself and Walter, as the third does in fact come into the pit lane. So it will be exactly correct for the top two, as they are going to filter their way through. But yeah, 17 minutes left in this race. We might still be getting a fight on for the lead, we might not, but we certainly will be having a fight on for what will be in the GTO podium. Josephine Becker, Noel Lundberg, Mickey Friesen trying to really stretch each other to the limit, trying to force mistakes.
I think as well, they're trying to push hard, because they would have had a moment. In fact, Mickey Friesen just pulled over to one side there. I think he doesn't want to be here. He's happy to be at the back of a group, and I don't blame him. That's where I'd like to be. Top 6 have yet to pit, but these drivers need to work together, because they would have been told car number 5 has just set the fastest lap, and he was a second faster than Johan Van Hicks last time. Both of them do not have slipstream effect. So Cal's just done a 56.1, a free 56.1 on his own, and here he comes down into the Porsche curves. This usually indicates, when they start getting a little bit faster, that the drivers are probably looking to pit. And of course, I was just saying that about Josephine. She's just taken a slowdown at the worst corner on the track, and it's not the Théâtre Rouge. It's actually a slowdown through the Mulsanne corner. It's one of the worst slowdowns in the sim on this track. So that's going to be a real big hamper for her. She's still trying to serve it and losing the slipstream. Cal Young, all eyes here on the number 5, because I feel he might just need a little bit of a refresher right now. Does he dive in? He does. He comes into the pit. He has got a healthy 52-second gap, but he now has to slow it down to basically replicate the Ford chicane to come into the pit. One of the longest pit lanes you will have in the sim. And he's into the pits as Van Hicks join him. Johan somehow finds the fuel to go around again. Schuster comes in. I want to know about Ian Haycox and Roman Bello. They might be coming in, but they're far behind. All eyes will be on these two.
Yes, certainly will. And the challenge of Le Mans is that it's so incredibly long. The pit lane is just one of the demonstrations of quite how long and hard this circuit can be. It's an incredibly difficult challenge. And Cal Young sitting in the pit lane at the moment, as we can see more drivers right into the lane at this point in time. That is the majority of the drivers ahead of these two. Haycox, Fazzini, Bello, Young and Schuster. In fact, the only driver to stay out ahead of them is Joram Van Hicks in that first place. Bit wide out of the final corner from Noel Lundberg, but Cal Young has made the overcut work. He is a corner ahead of these few drivers.
Interestingly, overcut working for drivers today. Jacob Reed gets a 6-second lead. Cal Young gets a 5-second lead. So the overcut is working and Cal is on pace. And with Josephine losing out to Lundberg and Friesen, I do wonder if that means we got our top 3 unless Josephine can work it. Diego Mastretta, it's not been the day for Diego. And another mistake out there. And well, this time it's a mistake on his own. Or did he actually get a little bit tapped? No, he went a little bit wide, tried to get back onto the throttle, and he was just a little bit slower. And the car behind him did unfortunately catch him. It was Yuri Wickstrom, not expecting the speed difference. Gabriel Martinez, not the place we expect Gabri to be. Remember, battling in the championship, currently P8. It says P9, unfortunately. But he did have a little bit of a moment out there. I do wonder if Gabriel's just struggling. However, trying to catch up here, a real good result would be nice. But remember, Joseph, there's 2 drop rounds in the season. So I think even if he doesn't get the best result out here, he won't be too upset because he can almost just throw it away and use this as a drop round.
Yeah, exactly. It's not too much of a dramatic drop, but of course you want to be able to avoid mistakes, avoid being punished for mistakes later on, and so that's why you want to avoid rounds like this as much as possible. Of course, you ideally win every single round and only have a couple of those be dropped, but that's not realistic. You are going to have bad races, and it's how you recover from them that just sees what happens. And of course, you take confidence into the rest of the season as well. If you have those drop rounds in your bank, then you can kind of use them tactically later on. So maybe you have a poor circuit, maybe you just take that race a little bit less seriously, and then your championship challenge can really ignite up later on. But if he's quite good at Le Mans, and we've seen the pace from him, he seems to be pretty decent, then it can feel like you are going to be missing out. Ilka Kotisalo is going to go for a move on Turbo and Palak here, and does make his way up to 7th place. And Turban, he's going to try and keep that straight line speed up, because now Kotisalo is without slipstream, but he's just about managed to sneak his way ahead. So there is no necessity for Turban Palak to keep that fight up. In fact, it makes more sense for him to be in that slipstream and to try and gain right back in down Curve de Golf.
Well, Seamus Power just had to do a splash and dash. I don't think he had the fuel after having to take an early pit stop due to that incident. So he's had a moment. Gabriel Martinez now getting past Goroshi. Jake's going to slap me. I apologize for my Japanese pronunciation there. Name pronunciation have not been good by me today. Apologies, Ika Costastalo. Now pushing on, trying to find his way to Forbin Pollock and into Arnage. They will go hard braking into Arnage, trying not to lock up his. Walk this straight, and that's not a brag, it's just to show how long it is. It took me over 40 minutes to walk this straight. And a fantastic as Van Hicks now into the pit. Won't get the lead back, but will get some good times. And give me a good shout out here, because Jacob Reed, knocking on wood, if he wins, we got to talk the Triple Crown. Tomorrow, Lotus 79s. We'll get that information later today. Lotus 79s here again with no chicane. So if you want to see a man try and go for history once again, Jacob Reed looking to go for the Triple Crown. Here, Lotus 79s, 1630 UTC will be that, as Noel Lundberg will come on by. Where is Van Hicks? He's still in the pit. Just now starting to roll out, and I wonder he's going to lose out to Cal just, but he may get ahead of Lundberg here. Hello, 1 second. Cal does not have the gap he wanted. 2 seconds. Going to be about 2.5 by the time they break for the chicane. Game on, I feel.
Very much game on right now, as it is about 2.5. You're right, 2.6 I think it is, as his tyres weren't quite warmed up to take the corner. Noel Lundberg 1.4 in behind, so the chase is on for these two. The chase is on as well for the number 3 on Cal Young in the lead of this pack. The GTO race at the top of the field is heating up with the final 10 minutes ready to get underway, and Yoram is going to be flying right at the very end of this one, as Jacob Reed looks like he's got this GTP race all but wrapped up. 11.5 seconds ahead of second place, but with Van Hicks 2.7 in behind Cal Young, it appears to be only a matter of time for those two are going to fight. But what a race he has had is Jacob Reed. He is just absolutely dominated, and well, he warded off that pressure from Valenteus, and that is exactly why he finds himself continuing in the lead of the race. Valenteus did take that pole position. Reed took the lead off him, and well, ever since then, he has not looked back.
Not looked back, and here's some interesting moves. Whoa. Everybody breathe. Just Jacob just going the wrong way. No, Josephine apologized. A little bit unpredictable there, but I think there's a little bit of a racing in between those two, and everyone had their heart in their mouth for a moment, because Reed has been in this situation before this season and lost the lead due to a moment. So Jacob is going to take it easy. Goes past Mickey Friesen. Mickey lost a slipstring to Lundberg after Mickey took a slowdown at the Dunlop chicane. I'm going to keep calling it the Dunlop chicane, but I got to be honest, in the real world, it is now the Michelin bridge, because Dunlop has lost a sponsorship, so it's going to be really weird on iRacing and other sims to be seeing that for the next few years. Regardless, Jacob now just having a good time. And last lap, he actually did have to go through some GTOs around the karting S's, as I said earlier, but no other issues. The rest of the field will have those issues, because in the battles at the moment, there's only a handful of gaps, less than a second. Fernando Serrato trying to hold off Darren Grau. You've got Elizajak trying to hold off Jack Wells. Tomoki Goroshi is trying to get past Gabriel Martinez. Mastretta is trying to get past Timothy Reed as well. Matt Glenn and Scott Lambert, apologies, also in their own little battle in the GTOs. You've got a free-car battle between Fulton Pollock, Costello, and Josh Brain. And Lundberg has caught up to the back of Van Hicks. I thought that Van Hicks would get a better start out here today. Unfortunately, not happened. And I can report Matt Glenn, I was just saying there was that little battle there for him, just going a little bit too wide through Tiet Rouge. So that battle is over for the moment. Diego Mastretta does get past Timothy Reed finally, though. Comes on down into the second chicane. 8 minutes to go. They've only got a handful of laps left, and well, 8 minutes usually sounds like you've got about 4 or 5 laps to go. No, it's going to be free. It's going to be 3 laps once they get through this.
Yeah, 3 laps indeed that they're going to have. So the pressure is going to be ramped up now at the end of this one to see what they are able to do. Diego Mastretta and Timothy Reed continue to fight it out, and Timothy just covers off the outside line. He doesn't want Diego to get the run and remains ahead in 12th place. The 22 holds on to the position, and well, down the next straight, it may well be that these two are going to swap once again. We have had so many overtakes look almost identical to that one today, but it doesn't look as though Mastretta is going to have the run out of the corner. What about Yuri Vikstrom? Is he going to have a change of fortunes in comparison to Mastretta? He's on the back of Rokchan, and he's got a better exit, it appears. The gap is 0.4 of a second, but it doesn't look as though, again, the run is going to be anywhere near good enough. The 15th place man remains in 15th for the time being, but Gavin Rokchan is going to be just ahead. Ferenc Grau looking to the inside of Serrato into the first corner. Serrato just holds on to the position for this time being, and well, Ferenc Grau is trying to force a mistake. He's trying to make Fernando try to defend under pressure, but when you're not feeling the pressure, when you're refusing to feel the pressure, there's going to be nothing there, and Ferenc Grau remains in 4th. He's going to have to take, you would imagine, a different approach.
Yeah, he actually put the pressure on Serrato there. Serrato had a slowdown coming out of the chicane, but able to navigate it, and also they managed to not hold up the GTOs and not got held up themselves. Van Hicks would use this slipstream to his advantage, and it's possible. 2 seconds now, the gap between Young and Van Hicks. It is possible to see those drivers catch up to Cal Young. It's going to be very tough. And hey, Aitor, I know you're not here. I don't know if you're watching, but your teammates are having a nice little scrap right now. Serrato trying to prove that, you know, Ferran's a good driver, but he can just get one up on Ferran, despite he's having another great halfway. He's had a great 6 months on the sim in the series, but Fernando kind of wants to just have the bragging rights out there, I feel. So there's a little bit of friendly rivalry by these two. They'll battle hard, but they will battle Ferran. You see Ferran just realizing no point trying to send it side by side. A little bit of overspeed will not help there. You just saw Jack Wells getting past Elizajak, and Elizajak having a slowdown as well. A slowdown in the first chicane. Very weird. I've got to say, I've seen more of those slowdowns in the first chicane than I've seen in a long time, Joseph. Not a place you expect it.
certainly isn't. And, well, Aitor is here, and he is indeed watching. So he's taken that one on board. But, yeah, it's that's going to be a huge slide for Serrato. And Ferran Grau takes full advantage, gets on through. Fernando Serrato slots in behind, but that was a mistake, a costly mistake that cost him that third place on the track potentially for the whole race, if not for the time being. And Legend Sack goes through on Wells as well. So these fights lighting up at the end as they really realise they need to get a move on. Ferran Grau though drops back behind Serrato. So potentially a little bit of teamwork as the Legend Sack through on Wells. Either bit of teamwork, or it's going to be a lot better exit from Fernando Serrato to be able to head right back on through. Yoram still 2.5 off of Cal Young in the lead. Noel Lundberg 3/10 off of him though. So the fight on top of the GTOs could be back on. The final few podium positions in both of the classes are so very hotly contested, but Jacob Reed and Aldous Valenteus have been able to eke out huge gaps. 11.1 the difference between the top two, and then Valenteus 11.2 ahead of Serrato. And well, we are going to be getting a 3-minute 20 lap time from Jacob Reed, and so that means we will get 2 more laps of racing under our belt.
Yeah, penultimate lap now for the GTPs, and that also means penultimate lap for the GTOs, and they'll be already working this out. Some of them struggle when it comes to fuel, and some of them said they don't actually have fuel graphs, so very interesting to look at that. I saw 2 cars going on by there. That was Goroshki and Gabriel Martinez just going by. It could be a late battle between those two, but Cal Young currently leading the way, and this is that's very risky. That's very risky. And in fact, this could be big implications for the GTOs, because Cal Young has a slowdown and he had no choice. He had to avoid the Japanese driver as Kuroshi went a bit too hot for a Sen. He had the tunnel vision thinking he was hot on the heels of Gabriel Martinez, and what it's meant is Cal Young is serving a slowdown going into the chicane. We said game on. We thought 2 seconds is too much. All of a sudden, the manic of Le Mans, the slowdowns has hit, and Cal still has not served that slowdown. He has now the gap 1.3.
1.3 down to 1.2, down to 1.1 at a moment in that corner. So maybe, just maybe, all 3 of the GTO podium spots are up for grabs if they so decide to take it. Brendan Lim might have an effect in this battle. The GTP is going to want to come through and lap these drivers. There we go. He gets through on one. Is he going to get through on the second one with relative ease as well? Yes, indeed he is. And he's lucky that he's caught them at a perfect time with the straight coming out. So it's not going to be it's not going to be costing anybody any sort of time. But Yoram is going to actually, in fact, be right in behind Cal Young. He's quietly gained. Of course, that slowdown very much helped him. It is a 5/10 gap between the top 2. It is less than a second that splits the top 3, as they will have just 1.5 more laps of racing.
Ferran Grau getting past Serrato. Serrato having a slowdown. We don't need to look at that. We need to keep our eyes on this, because this is now very interesting. The rules of a slipstream is the car in third usually is the man or the driver with an advantage. I unfortunately can't see that today in a GTO, not with the long straights they've got and the hard braking they'll have for the corners. What's going to happen, though, is who wants to play chess, who wants to play checkers, who wants to play Monopoly? No one wants to play Monopoly out there. They want to play this game. And I wonder if Van Hicks will look for a move now or look for a move later. Normally, you look at the switchbacks, best place to make an overtake is not here at Mulsanne. It'll be coming down the Gulf Straight into Indianapolis. Here's Jacob Reed, penultimate time. He will come through Porsche curves into Virage du Pont, and now the karting S's doing really well. Minute 10 left on the timer, so you know that he's going ahead to take 1 more lap, and he keeps it clean. 10.5 seconds is that gap, as you can see. No overtakes at the moment. Is Yoram just trying to hold his cards? He is. Actually, the overspeed, he's looking. No. And he was playing this game earlier with Cal, but Noel says no. And you buy one, you get one free, but he can't make it. That's not the deal today, Noel. You're going to have to wait.
Noel Lundberg has been so much quicker on a straight than these 2 drivers, but they get so much time in the corners that it's going to level them out, in fact. So Noel is going to be frustrated in behind. and will try and make his way through. Fastest lap of the race for Audrius Valenteus, an incredibly quick 3:23.9, showing us that he's still got it despite being down a position. Turban Palek here is going to have the fight on for 8th place, but the fight for the lead in the GTOs is exactly what we want to watch. With Cal Young leading Joram Van Hicks, leading Noel Lundberg. Joram went later into the stint and really trying to push now to try and get ahead. He's seen Cal make a couple of mistakes, have a couple of moments where he's lost time in this race, and well, there goes Fernando Sorato fighting for a podium, and that is going to be a horrible end at a terrible time for his race. And well, he established himself as somebody to keep an eye out on in the future, if not today. That's very unfortunate. Joram, though, right in behind Cal Young, as we will watch a replay of exactly what happened to Sorato. Too much speed, went too tight into the corner, and dramatically went off into the gravel. Avoided the barrier, but as soon as he came back on, that was curtains.
That was curtains as well. I think Gabriel Martinez has had a moment as well, and it's at the same corner. It's at the same corner right before the Forest S's, losing the car just over the bump afterwards into the gravel. The gravel that Sorato put up just caught him. Here he goes. The car's always going sideways. Gravel there, straight into the barrier he goes, and he's going to try and nut that car home. He can't. He's just going to have to tow that car. He's done. Van Hicks still looking, and if you want to make a move, you're going to have to make it here after Terre Rouge. And I say that in the legendary style of Alan McNish. My friends are going to hate me for that, I don't care. But we're going to see if he can get a move on. He's too far away, and Cal gets the slipstream of Timothy Reed. Noel Lundberg may see this, and he does. He looks for the bump drop. That gives the push for Johan Van Hicks. Van Hicks will take home the lead right now on the first part of the Mulsard Straight. There's Valenteus. He is still pushing, but he can't find 12 seconds now. Divine intervention or not, that is where he finishes. Jacob Reed just comes out of Arnage as well. Baron Grau still in a battle with a Lesnar Jack as he had a moment up there. And Kristoff, out of a surprise, is looking to take P3 in the GTP. If there's not a response from Baron Grau, he tried the inside line there for Indianapolis. Did not work. What are we going to get in the GTOs this time? More bump drafting. And Cal said, you know what? Take it. I don't want this right now. You take the lead right now, Van Hicks. And Johan will hold on to the lead right now. It's Grau. They're still battling. Who do we expect to think there'll be a battle for the last few spots? But the man of the minute, the man of the hour of power. It's 2 of 3 for Jacob Reed. Coming tomorrow. Mick Claridge is there. Everybody's there. Jacob Reed, you win at Le Mans, and you're 1 race away for immortality for the Triple Crown. He extends the lead in the IMSA Vintage Series, and now we've got to get to the GTOs.
Yes, it certainly is going to be a very good achievement if Jacob Reed's able to pull it off. But Joram is going to be leading Cal Young, leading Noel Lundberg. Terrible place for Joram Van Hicks to be in because he doesn't have the slipstream, and so Cal and Noel are going to try and go for the higher line. They're going to pick up that slipstream, take the advantage, and bump each other through, working as a team to fight through on Van Hicks, but then it's every man for himself. It's 3 wide as they head into the next braking zone, or lifting zone in fact, then the next braking zone. It's so very tight. Noel Lundberg tries to brake early, get the turn in, but in fact he's been boxed in and he hasn't been able to get the exit on. Cal Young leads this group, but a huge slide. He's going to take Noel Lundberg out of the fight. He's going to take himself out in the meantime. Might take that GTP out as well. It's drama on the last lap. Cal Young is out of the battle for the lead, and through all of that, Joram Van Hicks is going to lead by a gap. The door open for himself, and what an opportunity. He is going to try and take full advantage of it.
Full advantage. Cal was trying to hold the slide, and he held the slide well, but unfortunately there was nowhere for the drivers to go, and that means one thing. Joram Van Hicks, what a drive that you have had today. They just got past a little battle here for P13. Rockchad getting past Mastretta and Lewis as well. They're going to come home to the line, and they don't want any part of the leader right now. Van Hicks just wants to go on by. Is there going to be a late battle here? Is it going to be a traffic jam for Van Hicks? It's not. What a drive from Van Hicks. We thought for a moment that it was not all to be done. Cal Young has had the worst 10 minutes he'll ever want to see. Van Hicks takes the victory. Lundberg will get P2, and in a shock to the system, Mickey Friesen will come home in third. Josephine Becker records fourth. What a result for her. Cal Young, what could have been, and he held that drift, and it was such a good drift. It could not work there. I know there's been some choice words. There'll be more choice words by the drivers. I would not want to be in Cal Young's shoes right now. I'd love to run over and give him a big hug. That is so unfortunate for the driver up there. Corbin Pollock just coming across the line, and we've still got a couple drivers left out there to go. I think the last man just to get across will be Pablo Rangel, who is currently coming down into Indianapolis. So I think realistically all the positions are confirmed unless a driver had to crash. In fact, yeah, it's basically all confirmed right now. Joseph, what a finish that was.
What an unbelievable finish that was. And, well, that's just makes up for the lack of fight for the lead in the GTPs. But that is, of course, because of Jacob Reed's dominance more than anything else. But, wow, what an end to that race. And Joran Van Hicks will be the happiest man on earth right now. The door opened for himself to take the opportunity. We said that he didn't want to be in second place. For once, we were wrong. Because then he could really take the chance of, well, just, of course, avoiding Cal as he went out. It was very quick reactions times. And then the third place man tried to move out of the way as it would have been a lift from Joram just to try and make sure that he wasn't held up in it. He would have tried to take a different line, but Cal Young, very unfortunate for himself. We do have, though, our final results.
Yeah, and it's Jacob Reed. Second win today. Triple Crown is on for him for tomorrow. Valenteas will be in P2. And there's the Jack with a surprise P3 after Ferran Grau ran out of fuel. He'll be in fourth. Jack Wells will be fifth. And Fernando Serrato, after that moment just before the Forest S's, finishes in sixth. Tomoki Goroshi will be in seventh. Yuma Homa will be in eighth. But actually, just do a quick change to that because Timothy Reed has now got 10th and Goroshi is down to 11th. That allows Gyatu Puzzi into 9th and, of course, Timothy Reed into 10th. Neres Goroshi, he had a penalty he did not serve. Gavin Robchan will be in 12th, up 14 places today. Diego Mastretta, after a few spins, will come home in 13th. Guillermine Lewis also in 14th. Yuri Wickstrom, 15th, 16th, up 12 places for Scott Lambert. The number 45 car, give a shout out there to Scott. Sven Skushka will be in 17th. Matt Glan, 18th. And Lance Simon will be in 19th. Gabriel Martinez finishes 20th. Last car on the lead lap as well, because these drivers did have to take some repairs. Eric Davison in 21st, Brendan Lim in 22nd. Laus Olsen did come back out after that moment, again with one arm, so a real good shout out there, 2 laps down, but still survived an hour with one arm. Seamus Power had 3 pit stops today in 24th. Gabriel Sellen had a moment early and never recovered in 25th. Stephanie Mayon, we did see there in 26th. David Ricciardi as well getting catched out. Riley Poe, the first official retiree, coming home in 28th place.
Yeah, and in the GTOs, of course, drama at the end, but you wouldn't be able to see it on paper as Joran Van Hicks won by 2.6 ahead of Noel Lundberg. Mickey Friesen picks up a 3rd place, and then Josephine Becker, great position in 4th. Cal Young, disappointed to finish 5th in the end, and Andreas Schuster and Ilka Kotisalo came through the field, but ended up in at 6th and 7th place. Turban Palek, Josh Brain and Martin Kresherich will round out the top 10 in the GTO class. And, well, we, of course, did have less GTOs than GTPs today. Roman Bello in 11th place and Ian Haycox in 12th, just ahead of Kevin Binkley. Elias Fazzini, Fabian Youngbluth, and then Pablo Rangel will round out those drivers who finished with Emilio Tachari 12 laps down, 17th and last in the GTOs.
It says a lot, even with, I know there was less GTOs today, but 16 of the 17 GTOs all finished the race. Emilio had to take a retirement, and also those 16 were all on the same lap. Granted, Pablo was 2 minutes behind, still was there all on the lead lap. And Just wondering if we're going to get anybody in for interviews. I don't think so. An hour is long, and also there's a race happening very shortly in the real world. I wonder what they're all getting to rush home for. So I was just going to say that's going to be a great finish there. But a thank you once again to the team, to Joseph, to Daniel, and to Dougie. And as always, a thank you to the IMSA Vintage community for bringing us back once again for another fantastic season. Next week, well, if you thought Le Mans was crazy, this is the racetrack. Yeah, we're at Pocono next week. Back in the day, back when the old whippersnapper, there was a road course at Pocono, and it's anti-clockwise. It's clockwise. Sorry, it's the other way. This is going to be a very interesting race, very rare race. That's one to be keeping your eyes out for next weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing something I've never seen before. We're going to the old school of American racing out there. But I did say there were more races coming up, and the important one now, well, I say that, yeah, now if we have a load of 79s at Le Mans without the chicane tomorrow, Jacob Reed is looking for a Triple Crown. But we've also got the Porsche Owner Cup there on Tuesday at Interlagos. Skip Barbers will go to Phillip Island, and then we do it all over again with the Grand Prix Legends at Long Beach. I did just see someone just knocked on the broadcast door. Laus Olsen's just knocking on the door. I just wonder very quickly, we'll just get in. Laus, the first question, welcome to the box. How's the arm, and why, oh why, did you think you could do it today?
The arm is fine, actually. That's okay, but I didn't really have any speed. And then poor Diego, I missed my braking point, being too close up his rear wing, so I couldn't see the brake markers, and lost track of how far or how close we were to the corner. So I simply braked too late and shoved him off the track. So my apologies to Diego, but yeah, and then a little bit of repair, and then the rest of the race was just trying to do lap times.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that, because I know technically you weren't really racing anybody then for the rest of the race. Did you use that for a little bit of getting yourself re-familiarized with the car? I know you're one of the drivers with the most broadcast races ever in the series, but was that just a chance of getting yourself re-familiarized and also just testing the strength? Because for those that don't know, Laus, I'm not even going to make fun of him being a Dane and doing this, because anyone would do it. So fell on a piece of ice when shoveling snow and broke his arm. So was this just a case of just testing out what you could do? Because you did the 49s earlier on an oval. This is a completely different kettle of fish.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to get back in the seat as fast as possible. And when first I started the race, the goal was, and that's always when I race, the goal is always to finish, even though things go wrong and I get some laps behind. But if possible, I will always get back on track and try to finish the race. Also to not lose too many I rating and safety rating. I think I picked up 2 or 3 spots, other people disconnecting from the race. So yeah, just preserving ratings also.
Now, I don't know if you will be attending next week, but you're a driver with a lot of experience. Next week is Pocono. You've got an experience of this, I believe. If you do, what are we expecting to see next week?
Oh, that is going to be exciting, I think. It's the first sector is quite tricky. I find first braking into the first corner and getting that right, and then there's some slow stuff before going back onto the oval. And I guess that first sector could be quite difficult with traffic, especially because there will be a big speed difference into turn 1 and 2. Probably some Nissans getting caught out by the speed they have compared to the Audis. So I think traffic-wise, at least the first sector could be quite tricky, but the rest of the circuit should be fine. But I think I'll try to, if my arm is still doing well, I will try to do it.
Well, Lars, we love seeing you. It's always fun to see you. It's great always just seeing you. We hope to see you back. If next week, yes, but we'd love to see you back with a fully recovered arm, Lars. Until the next time we see you, please stay safe. Get someone else to do the snow shoveling for you, and and we look forward to seeing you somewhere down the road.
Yeah, thanks. Always enjoying your broadcast, so looking forward to it too.
Thank you very much, Lars. Yeah, that was Lars Olsen, finishing 23rd, but always nice to hear from the veteran of the series. Let's have a quick replay of that incident at the end of the race, because this was big, because you can see Cal came in and he just took too much at the curb, and he comes into this slow. And I know that Noel immediately apologized after the race. He tried to go as right as he could. At this point, if you're Noel, you're trying to point that car. But he's also done a similar moment there. He's just slid a little bit too far out himself. I'm not saying if he took the normal line, he would have avoided Cal. I think, unfortunately, Cal was always going to be a missile there, not on purpose, because you have to throttle up to get the car caught there. And that's unfortunate for Cal. Getting caught up in one too many moments there cost him, and that is heartbreaking. What isn't heartbreaking is Jacob Reed, because I know we talk about the series we're in right now. It is the IMSA Vintage, and he does have a grasp on the championship once again and a big lead. The key thing for him now is that he has a chance at history tomorrow. And this is probably, and I'm hyping this up too much, it is probably the greatest chance we've had for the Triple Crown for years. You do not want to miss that tomorrow. You do not want to miss IMSA Vintage next week. You don't even want to miss it for the rest of the season, because it's just another hotbed of action. Until next time, race clean and race hard. We'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.